Okay, children, we will begin from where we left in the last turn. So, we are continuing with the story Quality. I ordered several pairs. Now, looking into the condition of Mr. Gessler and his shop and his sales, the narrator feels pity and he orders several pairs of boots and or shoes. Maybe he was not requiring that many, but then he still ordered just to support Mr. Gessler. It was very long before they came, so it took a long time for the shoes to arrive at his place. Probably one of the reasons could be earlier there were two brothers making the boots. Now it was only the younger one. As we know, the elder one has already died. It was very long before they came, but they were better than ever. The shoes came late, but they were better than ever. They were of the same quality or even better. One of the reason could be Mr. Gessler made these shoes even better so that the client sticks to them for their future purchase. Again, a reference can be taken from like comparison between good quality shoes and cheap shoes. Okay. One simply could not wear them out. So the shoes were so good that no one could wear them out. Means the shoes would not go bad, would not tear. They were so good. And soon after that I went abroad. So moment he had received the shoes, which he says is of very good quality, soon after that he went abroad. It was over a year before I was again in London. So the narrator says, it was more than a year that I returned to London. And the first shop I went to was my old friend's. So the first shop he went to was the shop of his old friend, that is Mr. Gessler's shop. I had left a man of 60. I came back to one of 75. Now this line is very important. I had left a man of 60. Means when he left, the man who was there, that is Mr. Gessler, was of the age 60. I came back to one of 75. So he had gone for only 1 year. And when he came back, this 60-year-old Mr. Gessler looked like a 75-year-old man, pinched and worn. So he was looking very tired. He was looking very like worn out, not fresh and tremulous. Tremulous means a person who is shaking, who genuinely this time did not at first know me. So when he returned after a year of staying abroad, he saw that the man who looked 60 earlier is now looking to be of 75. So this is what poverty and no work does to a person. So he looks worn out, who genuinely this time did not at first know me. So earlier he could recognize, is this Mr. If you remember. So but this time he could genuinely not recognize the narrator. Oh, Mr. Gessler, I said, sick at heart. So he tried to show that enthusiasm, but he was sick at heart. He here means the narrator. He says, oh, Mr. Gessler, so he says, oh, Mr. Gessler, I said, sick at heart. So I was feeling bad about Mr. Gessler. How splendid your boots are. See, I have been wearing this pair nearly all the time. I have been abroad, and they are not half worn out, are they? So basically, if you read this sentence, the narrator is trying to motivate, I mean, trying to boost the morale of Mr. Gessler. He is basically praising the boots. He's saying the boots are splendid. I have been wearing this all the time and still they are not even half worn out. Just trying to boost the morale, make Mr. Gessler happy. He looked long at my boots, a pair of Russian leather. So he looked long at my boots. So he kept on staring at the boots, a pair of Russian leather, and his face seemed to regain steadiness. Now his art is making shoes. So when he is looking at the shoes, he regained steadiness. He again became what he was. Putting his hand on my instep, he said. Now what is instep? Instep is the arched upper surface of the foot. So if you search on Google, you can see the diagram. It's just the arched front surface of the foot. So he put his hand on my instep. So Mr. Gessler touched the instep of the narrator and said, "Do they with you there here? I had trouble with that bear, I remember." So he says, "Do they fit you there? I had trouble with that there, I remember." So he says, do the boots fit you in the instep? Because while I was making this shoe, I had trouble making this part so that it fits your foot. I assured him that they had fitted beautifully. So again, the narrator is trying to be optimistic, trying to motivate, and he says, "I assure you, Mr. Gessler, they fitted beautifully at that point. Do you want any boots?" So again, you see, Mr. Gessler is directly coming to the point. He is asking, do you require any more boots? I can make them quickly. Underline this. I can make them quickly. Comparison with mechanized factories, who make quickly any boots which are available in the market, and that is one of the reasons why such quality boot maker are losing their market. Now if you recollect, there was a time these people were at their prime, and right now what we can understand, they are hardly getting any orders. It's not they, it is now Mr. Gessler, as the elder brother has already passed away. So they are not getting any orders of boots. So Mr. Gessler is bending down, stooping down and asking, do you want any boots? I can make them quickly means I can do it very fast. Again, comparing himself with the mechanized factory. It is a slack. So what does Mr. Gessler mean by saying it is a slack time? It basically means it is a slack time. Slack time means it is slack, means there is hardly any business for me. So if you want, I can make them really quickly. Again, showing the desperation and showing that Mr. Gessler has hardly any work, or probably no work. I answered, please, I want boots all round, every kind. So the author is very sad about Mr. Gessler, and he is trying to hide that sadness and wants to give Mr. Gessler more of business. So he says, please, yes, I want boots all round. I want boots for every time of my life and of every kind. So the narrator is basically trying to give orders to Mr. Gessler so that he doesn't feel the pain which he is talking about indirectly right now. To this, Mr. Gessler replied, I will make a fresh model, means I will make a fresh model, a new design. Your food must be bigger. Here actually he means the feet must be bigger now. So I will make a fresh model, fresh design for you. And with utter slowness, he traced around my foot and felt my toes. Once, only once, looking up to say. So as he said this he sat down with a pencil and a paper and traced around my foot. It means he drew around the foot to take the size of of his foot, for which he is going to make the boots. And he also felt his toes, and he looked up to say, did I tell you my brother was dead? So he had forgotten that he had already informed the narrator that his elder brother has passed away. And so he asks him again, did I tell you that my brother is no more? So it was again sadness for the narrator. To watch him was painful. So the narrator says, looking into his eyes, looking at him was painful. So feeble had he grown, so he has grown so weak. He looks so tired, so worn out. I was glad to get away. So the author was glad to move out of that place because he could not bear the looks of Mr. Gessler anymore, because he was sorry for the state of Mr. Gessler. I had given those boots up. So the boots were not coming. So I had given up on them that they will ever come. But one evening the boots were delivered to the narrator. Opening the parcel, I set the 4 pairs out in a row. So he had ordered 4 pairs. As he opened the parcel, I set the 4 pairs out in a row. Then one by one I tried them on. So then the narrator tried each pair of shoe one by one. There was no doubt about it. In shape and fit, in finish and quality of leather, they were the best he had ever made for me. So these shoes were the best that Mr. Gessler has ever made for the narrator. Again, the reason could be that since he doesn't have clients or customers, he dedicated his entire time on these shoes, and also perhaps to keep this customer forever. And in the mouth of one of the town walking boots, I found his bill. So out of these 4 shoes, one of them was the town walking boots, and in its mouth was the bill kept by Mr. Gessler. The amount was same as usual, but it gave me quite a shock. So the amount which was charged for the boots were usual, that is whatever Mr. Gessler used to normally charge, but it gave me quite a shock. So what was the shock? He had never before sent it in till quarter day. Now what is a quarter day? A quarter day was the 4 days on which servants were hired, school terms started, and rents were due. They fell on 4 religious festivals, roughly 3 months apart. So here a quarter day means 3 months apart. So probably he would have got it on the next quarter day. The bill would have reached the narrator otherwise on the next quarter day, but here it was placed in one of the mouths of the shoes. I flew downstairs. So what did this mean? This meant that Mr. Gessler is in need of money and he cannot wait for the next quarter day to come, and he wanted the narrator to pay the bill as soon as possible. Again, showing the financial condition of Mr. Gessler. Money was required immediately. I flew downstairs and wrote a check and posted it at once with my own hands. So the author realizes, or the narrator realizes, that Mr. Gessler needs the money urgently. So he ran downstairs, wrote a check for the money, and posted it at once to Mr. Gessler with his own hands. So we see the concern of the narrator for Mr. Gessler. A week later, passing the little street, I thought I would go in and tell him how splendidly the new boots fitted. So after around 1 week, as the narrator was passing that street, he thought that he should pay a visit to Mr. Gessler and appreciate that how splendidly these boots fitted him. So as the author or the narrator was thinking of going to the shop and appreciating, but when I came to where his shop had been, but when the author reached the place where Mr. Gessler's shop had been, his name was gone. So no more there was the board Gessler Brothers. Still there in the window was the slim pumps. Were the slim pumps means still in that window were kept the slim pumps. If you remember, pumps is a type of a shoe. The patent leathers with cloth tops, the sooty riding boots. So all these things were still there in the window, but the name plate was no more. That is the Gessler Brothers. I went in very much disturbed. In the two little shops again made into one was a young man with an English face. So as he went into the shop, he was very disturbed. Disturbed because he was wondering what happened to the board. Where is Mr. Gessler? So I went in very much disturbed. So the narrator is very much disturbed. In the two little shops, so if you remember, initially the Gessler brothers had two shops made into one. Later, when things were hard, they used only one shop. And now again, it in the two little shops again made into one. Again, the two little shops were made into one as it was initially when the narrator had visited the Gesslers for the first time. Was a young man with an English face. So when he went inside, he met a young man who had an English face, and Mr. Gesslers were German. So now here is someone who has an English face. So he is a Britisher. So as he goes in, he asks, Mr. Gessler in? So he's asking, is Mr. Gessler inside? I asked. So the narrator asks, is Mr. Gessler in? He gave me a strange, ingratiating look. Now what is ingratiating? Ingratiating means charming, pleasing look. So he gave me a strange, pleasing look. And the question asked by the narrator was something different, and he got a very strange, pleasing look from this Britisher. No, sir, he said. No. So this person said, no, Mr. Gessler isn't here. No. But we can attend to anything with pleasure. So this person says, no, sir. He said, no, but we can attend to anything with pleasure. So he says, no, Mr. Gessler is no more here, but we can attend to anything with pleasure. Means he doesn't want to lose this customer. So he says, we can do whatever you're looking for. We have taken the shop over. So he says, we have taken over the shop of Mr. Gessler. You have seen our name, no doubt, next door. So you must have seen our name, trying to show that they are very popular. So you have seen our name, no doubt, next door. We make for some very good people. So we make shoes for some very good people. Now, basically, what is he trying to do? He's trying to advertise. He's trying to make the author realize that they are really good shoemakers. On the contrary, do you remember when Mr. Gessler's owned this shop, there was no advertisements at all. They sold because of their quality. So what we have seen till now in the story is that a very successful bootmaker shop with two brothers who used to make shoes for really good people but never advertised, and actually never required advertisement, but their publicity was by the spread of news through mouth. But because of the industrialization and mechanization of manufacturing, these people lost a lot of business, and a time came when one of the brothers, Gessler brothers, died, and the younger one tried to continue with the shop as long as he could. But now, as the author comes to the shop, he sees that the shop has been taken over by someone else who is, on the contrary, advertising their products. So we will stop here for the day. Next turn probably will be the last turn for this story. So we will see how the story ends and how mechanization and industrialization has destroyed such artisans who were masters of their art. Thank you so much.